Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready to dive into something interesting today?
Always up for a good deep dive. What are we exploring today?
So we're tackling this idea of being wired for wealth, right?
I'm intrigued.
We've got this source, 3 signs you are on the path to wealth. And it really got me thinking, like what actually sets apart those wealth builders?
It's a question that's been around forever, hasn't it? What is it that makes some people so good at building wealth?
Right. And this source skips all those typical things, like risk and luck. It dives into some signs you might not expect.
Okay, I'm all ears. What's sign number 1?
So sign number 1 is urgency.
Urgency.
Yeah, and before you think we're going to tell everyone to rush into every decision.
Right, like make impulsive choices.
Exactly, The author actually clarifies, this isn't about rushing. It's more about this understanding of how valuable time really is, especially when you're building something big.
I can see that.
Yeah.
It's like you don't want to waste time when conditions are good, right? It's like the difference between, say, frantically trying to build a house in a hurricane
Oh, wow, yeah.
versus steadily building it brick by brick when the weather's good and the ground is solid. This source really emphasizes that wealthy people, they see time as this resource you can't get back.
And they are serious about not wasting time. There's this line in here, and it's a little blunt, I'll admit. It says, in the dictionary of a wealthy individual, there is no such word as procrastination.
Wow, okay. Straight to the point.
Right. It makes you think.
It does.
Okay.
It really highlights that it's about recognizing that consistent action, even those baby steps, they add up over time. The author actually uses this really vivid image of a stream slowly carving its way through solid stone.
Oh, wow.
It's not brute force, right? It's the steady, persistent effort day after day that eventually creates something incredible.
That's such a good point. It makes you think about all those get-rich-quick schemes out there. It feels like this source is saying real wealth building. It's more about patience and consistency, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's about discipline. Showing up, doing the work day after day, even when you don't see those immediate results.
That's like, those stories of athletes training relentlessly even when nobody's watching.
Exactly.
It's not about hoping for that lucky break. It's about consistently putting in the work.
And that consistency actually ties into the second sign the source talks about, laser-like focus on your goals.
And not just having goals.
Right.
Because I think we all have some idea what we want to achieve. But this source really digs into how those goals are structured.
Yes. It's the difference between saying, I want to be successful and I will achieve this specific goal by this specific date using these specific methods.
Ooh, I like that.
Wealthy individuals, at least according to the author, they get incredibly specific. They break down these big aspirations into actionable steps.
So instead of just saying, I want to be a millionaire, you would say,
You'd say something like, I'm going to launch a business in this field and reach $1 million in revenue within 5 years.
wow, okay.
And I'm going to do that by focusing on these 3 key strategies.
This is so specific.
Right. That level of detail, it changes everything.
It's like the difference between having a vague idea for a novel
Yeah.
and actually sitting down and outlining the plot, the characters, the themes, everything.
Exactly. One is a daydream. The other is a roadmap to publication. And speaking of roadmaps, there's this quote that really stuck with me.
Oh, you mean that line? If you're not becoming wealthy, you're helping someone else become wealthy.
That's the one. Kind of makes you reevaluate some things.
It's a wake-up call for sure.
Yeah.
Makes you realize you can't just coast, You have to be intentional.
Absolutely. And that intentionality, it's got to carry over into how you think about learning, about growing.
Right.
And that actually brings us to the third sign this source really digs into, that constant drive for self-improvement.
Okay, so not just trying to win at self-help. There's more to it than that.
Way more to it. The author really drives home this point that people who build wealth, they're almost obsessed with learning, always pushing themselves to learn and grow.
Huh. So they see it as a competitive advantage or something.
They do. They understand that the more you know, the more doors open. The source actually gives this example. Imagine increasing your income just by 10%, right?
Yeah.
But because of something new you learned.
Okay, yeah, that's starting to add up to real money.
Right. And if you're already at a good income level, that 10% could be huge.
Yeah, for sure. But even on a smaller scale,
Right.
It makes sense if you think about it. It's like compound interest, right?
Exactly.
A little bit of learning, but you apply it consistently. And over time, those gains they can really snowball.
And that's what people wired for wealth seem to understand, like intuitively. They're not relying on what they knew yesterday. They're always reading, going to seminars, talking to mentors.
Always looking for an edge.
Always.
It kind of reminds me of that saying, the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know.
Oh, I like that one.
It's about staying curious, right?
Yep.
And humble enough to realize there's always going to be more to learn, no matter how much you think you already know.
And it doesn't have to be this huge undertaking either. This source, they really emphasize those micro habits of learning, little things you build into your everyday routine.
Yeah.
Like
right.
maybe instead of scrolling through social media during your commute, you listen to a podcast.
Right.
Or trade out that hour of TV for 30 minutes with a biography of someone you admire.
It's about being intentional with your time, choosing growth over, well, I guess, just zoning out, right?
Exactly. Which honestly can be tough. Like our world is full of distractions.
Yeah. Tell me about it. I know I get sucked into a good Netflix binge every now and then.
We've all been there. But it's about catching ourselves in those moments, right?
Yeah.
And asking, what could I be doing right now that would actually move me towards those goals?
Yeah. Even if it's just 15 minutes of reading something interesting or listening to something enriching.
It all adds up.
It really does. And it all kind of comes back to that idea of urgency, doesn't
I
it?
know that.
Not in a panicked kind of way, but just this understanding. Time. That's your most valuable resource.
It's about being intentional with that time, because those small moments, those moments of learning and growth, they have a bigger impact than we realize.
Way bigger. It's like we're investing in our future selves, putting in these small deposits, of knowledge and effort. And like any good investment, it pays off big time down the road.
I love that analogy. And it kind of gets at this idea that these three signs, that urgency, the laser focus, that dedication to learning, it's not about some magic formula for becoming a millionaire overnight.
Right. It's not like follow these 3 steps and poof, you're automatically wealthy.
Right, exactly. The author seems to be saying it's more of a fundamental shift in how you see the world. You're not just along for the ride, hoping for the best. You're in the driver's seat.
You're actively shaping your future.
Yes.
It's like you're playing the wealth building game, but with a whole new strategy.
Yes, 100%. And it's interesting because as you start to level up your thinking like that, it can impact other areas of your life too,
Oh, totally. Like that saying, your network is your net worth.
Yes.
As you start learning and growing, you probably attract those kinds of people, other people who are ambitious and driven.
Inevitable, yeah. You're drawn to people who challenge you, who inspire you, who understand that desire to keep growing.
So it becomes less about the money itself and more about, this community of people who are all striving to be better.
Absolutely. Which can be incredibly motivating.
It really can. So if there's one big takeaway from this deep dive, it's that building wealth, and I think that goes for financial wealth and just, building a rich life. It's not about waiting for good luck or for someone to hand you a winning lottery ticket.
Right, it's about you.
It's about cultivating that drive from within, that hunger to learn new things, that laser focus on your goals.
And maybe most importantly, realizing it's a journey, not a destination. There's no finish line when it comes to personal growth.
No, absolutely not. It's about constantly striving, learning, evolving. And on that note, we'll leave you with this. As you embrace these principles, even in small ways, think about it. Who will you become? What amazing things will you achieve?
Now that's something to think about.
It is. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. We'll see you next time for another fascinating exploration.